Good.
All right, so I called the order the village board meeting on Wednesday, June 18th, 2025 at
6:26 p.m.
all right, roll call, please.
President Gerke,
Here.
trustee Moonen,
Here.
trustee Baum,
Here.
trustee Quinn. Here. Trustee Beal. Here. Administrator Green.
Here.
And clerk Capazzo to record the minutes.
All right, stand for the pledge of allegiance and for silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Right, item 3 are citizens' comments. Citizens can come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and limit your presentation to about 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Robert Gall, Gall. My address is N72W22454 Good Hope Road, Village of Lisbon 53089. I'll get it all in 3 minutes. I was just received from Dan today a little information that was rather hurtful, that the village has extended the size of the amount of square footage that buildings can be built on R2 property for unattached buildings up to 2,000 square feet. So the property next door to me can now have 2,000 square feet of unattached building. And with another code, he's allowed to perform automotive repairs. I don't know if, according to the code, there was, he's supposed to have produce some form of a operation plan. I don't know if that was produced and exactly what type of performance plan they produce. But if it's not, as I would understand, that on R2 property, some neighbor that has no other outbuilding could build a 20 by 100 foot building, build a lawnmower or a motorcycle repair shop right next door, and you as a owner with a R2 property would have no say-so in it. Am I correct? But you can't answer me. I know it's only, this is a one-way conversation. It's a little unfair. I bought this house in 2000, and I bought it for a simple reason that I wanted a house like mine on each side. I now have a house on one side, and I got a automotive repair center on the other that operates 6.5 days a week with tow trucks in and out and a flatbed delivering cars. I'm screwed. And the biggest problem is in about 2 years, I gotta say goodbye to this property. Because it's a little getting hard maintaining my property. And the value of my property with this building now in progress, the value of my property has decreased by the amount of variances you wonderful people have unknowingly allowed to happen. Now, I know you people allow these good thoughts to allow these people to increase the sizes of their building, to maybe make a snowmobile trailer building or an extra car garage. But you know yourselves that people don't always behave themselves, they'll extend themselves. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I got a neighbor that just does not behave himself, and I've got to live with it. I just wanted to let people know that what you have done, you are going to end up being responsible for. I hope you are aware of the actions of what you have done and know that down the road, you're going to have some consequences to handle. Again, I thank you for your action.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Is there anyone else who wishes to make us a comment tonight?
Pardon?
I was asking if there's anyone else in the audience like wishes to speak. All right, we will move on to item 4 then, which is the consent agenda. I understand that item L should be removed.
Yes, please.
Is there anything else on there that anyone wishes to remove and separately discuss? No? All right, then is there a motion on the consent agenda, last item L?
I'll make a motion to approve A through M minus L as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Right. Motion's been and seconded. Any
I have
discussion?
a question. Who's paying for K? Who's paying the 70,000? Is that the TID or is that the utility?
Yes, that's the TID.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know.
Any other discussion?
Mm-mm.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Item 5A is accounts payable, authorized payment of the one-click bills dated 5/29 for $2,038.33. Is there a motion to approve or otherwise? With Rob sitting this one out, is there a motion by,
I'll make a motion to approve the one-click bills dated 5/29.
is there a second to that
I'll
motion?
second.
Any discussion? Right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0 with one abstention. Item 5B is to authorize payment in the remaining bills. Dan, you wanna highlight something here before we?
Yeah, I'll go through the top 5 expenditures for each. So the first dated 5/29, the top 5 expenditures are County Treasurer for $81,971.20. The Village of Sussex, $20,143.13. Uncle Engineering for $11,835. US Bank Corporate Payment Systems, $9,732.71, and Joe Plumbing for $6,261. And for the bills dated 6/6, $37,032.59 for premier building inspections, $13,605.40 for useful modification. $6,694.42 for Week Energies, $1,548.42 for Bob's Tire, and $880 for Pixie.
Any questions on this? Is there a motion then?
Oh, I have a question. I'm sorry. Just a quick question. Can I ask Dan, the Debilic bill for $6,200, is that the one we just spoke about with the kids' underwear in the? Then I don't think we should pay this.
But we still have to pay, we would just bill it back.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I thought they were gonna be billed directly, but that's okay, then I understand.
All right, any other discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve 529 and 66 check registers as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion's been seconded. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item 6 is announcements and correspondence. We have a plan commission meeting next Wednesday at the Richard Young Fire Station at 6:30. The village hall is closed on Friday, the July 4th. Parks Committee meeting Wednesday, July 9th, at 5 o'clock here at the village hall. Back to the regular schedule for the village board meeting in July, which will be on the 9th at 6:30 here. And then the Public Works and Utility Committee meeting Wednesday, July 16th at 5 o'clock at the village hall.
I have a quick question. I saw on the door coming in, I thought, is the village hall also closed on the 3rd? According to the sign out there? Elisa?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe we are closed the 3rd and the 4th.
Okay,
I
because that,
believe that's correct.
it just says the 4th here. Is that a normal? You always close the day before?
Depends how it falls.
I think there's always 2 days on the 4th of July, but they're allowed to use the 3rd as a floating holiday for most of the state law.
Okay, all right,
That's been happening.
Okay.
Doug's July.
okay. Thank you.
All right, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I wasn't aware of that either. Any other announcements or correspondence? All right, let's move on to item 7, which is the administrator's report. Dan?
So we sold all of the fire equipment that was required to sell. Fire agreement, the fire contracts, the straight stick ladder probably received $28,700 for the tandem axle water tender. We received $35,500 for, and then we sold the Pierce spray liner engine for $37,500, all through the Wisconsin surplus auction. And then the 3 ambulances have all been sold and been removed. And then you're aware of the race order that we sold earlier this year, so. Thanks to Nick, who was helping me with a lot of that, and the fire department was very helpful in during the hospital as well. The community festival is this week, this last weekend. We had some really good feedback online on Facebook so far, so we're hoping to continue to get feedback back that's actually constructive, because all I've gotten is good feedback, which is great. But thanks to the park committee, Paula, and to everyone on the committee, I want to thank the park staff for a lot of time and effort into that as well. Being there all day as well. Currently, I'm working with the League of Municipalities, the insurance quotes for next year. So that's a long process of updating our inventory and including sewer and our equipment list that we have. So I've just been attending meetings regarding water expansion, which we'll talk about later on the agenda, and getting budget preparation ready for budget workshops that are coming up later this summer.
Right. We'll move on to item 8A, which is under unfinished business discussion and necessary action regarding the stormwater drainage easement at Fisher Sewer.
I apologize, this wasn't in the packet, but it's what I handed out to you. This was in the packet last last meeting, and that originally was, for the. This is a stormwater drainage easement, but was required in order to, change the stormwater direction that had to be changed because of the building that was, approved by the planning commission at their site, in Quarry Corners, but what the attorney found was they also had to approve a maintenance agreement as well. So, that has been done and been notified to the all the people that are within that maintenance agreement. We were required to give a 30-day notice of that, which we did. So that now that that is done, we can move forward with the stormwater drainage easement. I put both documents, or gave you both documents just for reference, but right now we're just approving the stormwater drainage easement. Now that the maintenance agreement has been drafted.
And since we didn't have much time on this, time to look at this, this has been reviewed by yourself, by Attorney Larson.
Larson drafted.
Okay.
So we had to draft the whole thing. There's a lot of references to different CSM, trying to figure out who was actually part of that maintenance agreement. It was a little longer than anticipated. But yeah, he drafted it.
And I'm sorry, who did you say is paying for this?
Be busy, so we're the applicant that went to planning commission for their structure. They're the ones that have to redo the.
So who's actually paying for him? Your,
They are.
They-
okay. Never mind, thank you.
Any other questions or someone ready to make a motion? Mark, you're on a roll tonight. Do you want to make another motion?
Sorry. I'll make a motion to approve the vacated easement area update regarding the stormwater drainage easement and busy sewer in the village.
Right, is there a second to that motion?
Oh, sorry,
All right, any additional discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item 9 is applications for alcohol beverage licenses for the license year from July 1st of 2025 through June 30th of 2026.
All right, so in your packets, I did do a brief staff memo on this, giving the statutory authority for the governmental body to approve annual retail alcohol licenses. All of the applications were submitted on or before June 3rd, so they all meet the minimum 15-day holding period, because state law says that we have to sit on licenses for a minimum of 15 days before the governing body can approve them. The statutorily required background checks were all conducted on the agents who the licenses will be issued to on behalf of the businesses, as well as all of the officers, owners, members, partners of the corporate entity. No offenses were found. The legal notice was published as required, and all outstanding monies that are owed to the village have been or will be collected before we hand over the licenses. So I ask for your approval, and there is a recommended motion about halfway down on the memo.
All right, does someone see that motion and wish to make that motion?
I will make a motion to approve the retail alcohol licenses for the July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 license year as follows. Do I have to read them out, Lisa? Or can I say as listed below?
You can say as listed below because they're itemized.
Okay, as listed below.
All right, is there a second to that motion?
I second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, did we have any violations from previous holders?
We did not.
Are we doing any periodic checks?
The DOR and the sheriff's department would be doing those checks. If there was an issue, our deputies would notify us.
Do you know if that, I mean, I know in the past we had, but I'm not sure, are we still, are they occasionally doing that?
I don't oversee that, so I don't.
I wasn't sure if anyone else had any knowledge of that or.
I can tell you that since the Department of Revenue has revised the alcohol and tobacco licensing, they are focusing heavily on education and enforcement.
Just for underage sales or?
It's mostly to educate license holders, and licensed operators, bartenders, about the law changes, and their goal is compliance rather than punishment. But if someone is found to be in violation, or if they're violating the underage service laws, then they would be cited.
Any other discussion?
And we'd be made aware of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if something happened from one of the DOR agents.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. On the new business, item 10A is discussion on necessary action to appoint Doug Brom to the Fire Commission. So this is, if you remember, well, I think it was last month, we had the appointments. So we have a Fire Commission, and we have what's the other one called? It's more of a
Fire advisory.
But so the Fire Advisory Committee, we're looking at least for this first year, there was a desire, I guess, Dan, I mean, for something from this Village of Lisbon and City of Pewaukee, and then maybe the village to have the chief elected official and the administrator serve on that, but then after that, potentially move away to having two different members, right? Is that kind of what?
Yeah, that's how I understood it. They're just looking at a representative board and then the administrator to attend, just to get the ball rolling with new members and then figure out what to do after a year to go with timelines. So.
And they weren't clear on what the current makeup of that advisory committee is. So, I mean, they're related, but they're on the same topic, but they're different. So, Doug, had expressed an interest in being involved. He was kind of on the fence, and I know there's others that are interested. I think you passed on someone, Mark, who was,
That was for the advisory.
he kind of expressed interest in either one, but he's more so the advisory. He sounded extremely qualified. So I will keep in touch with him. So I just want to kind of give you an update on both of those, but that's where we're sitting here with the recommendation to appoint Doug. So the way that it sounds like this is going to work is that making nominating Doug, you guys we would all approve, but then it would go to the city mayor to then recommend approval to the city council in Pewaukee. That's at least our understanding of how that would work. That's what we talked about when we had the other people in the room together. So they have the opening, and it is open, ready for us to appoint.
Was the fact that Doug was the old fire chief here, that obviously he's qualified to do it, that would be something that they would be in favor of, I'm assuming then, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
So I mean, that's why I was interested in appointing Doug for that, and he's willing to do it. Not that the city of Pewaukee had an objection to Doug, that I would not do that, but I would give it some more careful consideration. But when I discussed this with them, they're looking forward to having Doug on the commission.
Okay, good.
I don't think the city can turn down our appointment. It's the village's appointment, so whoever we want to serve on there, they would just have to memorialize to the city, but I don't think they have any comments on issues.
Okay,
Which is part of it.
fair enough.
Any other discussion? Are we ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Doug Brown to the Pewaukee Lisbon Fire Commission.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right. Is there any additional discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0. Item 10B is discussion and necessary action regarding potential future water extension from the Village of Sussex.
Provided a report. In the packet that goes through. A little bit of a background, the 10,000 foot view on what we're looking at in regards to, extending municipal water down, Town Line Road and then to Highway K. The reason, the rationale as to why we're looking at this project, it's, Land and Stone representative is here tonight too. He's gonna give you a lot more of a thorough review from their end as to, in perspective as to why this process and this project needs to move forward. From a staff standpoint or from a village standpoint, we're looking at protecting our residents, partially, and also preventing potential water issues in people's wells, which we know have been an issue in the parts north of Stone Quarry. So the idea is, as both a cost-effective measure for Land and Stone and for a health safety standpoint of the village, that this is something that we consider. And what I attached with the request for consideration was a report that was done by Strand. Pewaukee had hired Strand to look at if there was potential possibility for Pewaukee to provide water to these areas, because they actually have water closer to this area that Sussex does. But they have some issues of their own regarding PFAS and a couple of wells that they currently have issues with. So this study outlines that they won't be ready for municipal water at least until 5 years from now, and even then, it's not a certainty that they could provide it. Based on the needs of Land and Stone and what the timeframe of the village is, we had discussions with the village of Sussex, who is open to extending water from the north to the south along Town Line and then over. So it's kind of just a general overview of the project. And I'll let Nate, if you want to come.
Good evening. My name is Nate Swinton. I'm with Land and Stone Products. Nice to see you all this evening. I agree with everything Dan said. So there's quite a backstory to water issues in this area, going back generations. The municipal water program kind of universally is a good idea for everybody, even if you're not right next to a quarry, because of two things: some water quality issues, especially in some of the shallower wells. And then there's also just, if you look at aerial photographs going back 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, and then more recently, there's just more straws in that milkshake of the local aquifer. And so getting municipal water helps make sure that everyone, even if they're not affected directly by a quarry, has access to water that's consistent. They don't have a whoops where all of a sudden a well's going dry. And then for Land and Stone, our interest in this is we do candidly, in the area right around our quarry, have an impact on local aquifers. We're pumping water out of our big dry hole that causes a cone of depression. And so we're interested in making sure that no one has a surprise night where all of a sudden water runs dry. We'd rather be years ahead of it and take care of all those issues proactively. So that's why in 2021, we worked with Lisbon to form the water fund, and we're excited to see some progress here. So I've got an ocean of information and background and familiarity with this that I'm happy to Q&A on, but just in broad strokes, we're enthusiastic and optimistic and energetic about moving forward with this stuff. And I'm happy to do whatever Q&A and kind of talk through any issues or questions you guys may have about it.
I know Paul and then Mark, you guys had some, obviously were involved with the basic agreements years ago, as you referenced, and Rob and I have worked to get up to speed on things and, more recently. But this is, in regards to moving forward in this study. So I don't know if I'm sure there's some discussion or any insight or any other thoughts that people have on this. And our agenda is for water from Sussex, but there's the memo talks about sewer as well. And once we're in the ground, does it make sense to do both? And there's the fund which they guarantee. Land and Stone's is going to pay for all affected wells to be replaced as needed. But if there's money, they've also committed to providing a certain amount of money. If there's money left over in that fund, it could be used towards sewer, so. They're kind of intertwined for those two reasons.
Mhm. Well, it sounds like we've got to do something. I mean, because if we don't, then we're gonna wind up in a almost an emergency situation. If people's wells run dry and we're kind of stuck. And I'm just gonna say as a side comment, Land & Stone, you've always been a great partner with us.
Thank you.
So,
And do you want to
Bobby?
speak to that? I mean, about the emergency situation and how you've had to do some of that
Yeah.
just recently?
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny thing, we felt pretty proactive in 2021 when we formed the water fund, and we felt like there's a good thing over 20 years, we'll get all these things knocked out. And then I talked about dewatering and the cone of depression. So there's I think it's the Circle Crest is the name of the subdivision, the Linwood and Avon there off of Silver Spring. So mostly in 2023, we had something to the tune of 32 wells go dry in that subdivision. I think now we've replaced 38 or 39 since the end of 22 up until February this year. And it's a funny thing, not actually funny, but it's a tricky thing because the quarry's been around since I think the late 40s, early 50s, depending on the aerials when we opened up. And the neighborhood's been there since the 60s, I want to say. And you always kind of have a sense that, okay, this could affect those wells there, but it really affected one well there up until the end of 22, and then affected nearly all of the wells in that neighborhood. So it's a tricky thing knowing when that's going to happen, but when it happens more or less unexpectedly, then what you have is, say, 2 went dry over the Christmas weekend of 23, and you have people in hotels when they should be with family, and you don't plan around that. And with municipal water, you have a plan, you have a calendar, and you kind of know when those connections are going to happen in your front yard and everything. And families can plan around that, and that can feel pretty good. And it doesn't feel good when there's suddenly no water in your house. And so we are agonizing whenever that happens to make sure we're delivering water that same day to their house and put them up in a hotel and take care of everything for them. But everyone prefers to know that's going to happen way ahead of time, and they're never going to have an interruption of service. And you want to know when your switchover comes. So for us, that's the biggest thing, is we want our neighbors to have the highest view of us possible. And when your water stops working in your house, it's really difficult to have a high view of the folks that might have caused that. So that's where we're at. So the emergency stuff is, then I guess to complicate a little bit further, sometimes when you're drilling a well and there's another well 30 feet away, the drilling of this new well can spoil a perfectly functioning well 30 feet away. And so you kind of have this domino effect of, you may be doing one well and then you end up doing 3 wells, and you may end up doing a 4th and a 5th too, as you're fixing those wells, because you got wells without a whole lot of casing really close to each other in a neighborhood. So the emergency situations are not in anyone's best interest. So the planning ahead stuff is really, everyone is happier about that. There's no party that's not happier about planning ahead.
so are you digging deeper or wider? Is that like, what is?
Yeah, so when we dig a new well, our thought is we never want to dig that well again. So we know the terminal depth of our quarry. We know where the limestone turns to shale. Shale's no good for construction. So we have a really good sense of what the final depth and the width of the quarry will be, because the permitted zoned areas. So our final depth is going to be somewhere around 200, 210 feet. That's where the shale starts. And so when we're digging wells, we're casing them down to 200, 220 feet. So basically casing them into the shale, wherever they find the shale. And then we're digging them down to about 660. So that's into the kind of upper area of the sandstone aquifer, which produces pretty well and is entirely immune to our quarry operations in perpetuity. So so all the new wells that we put in that subdivision were all drilled to 660 and cased to something to the tune of 210 to 220 feet.
So I guess I'm a little confused. I know you put in 38 wells, you said.
Mhm.
Okay. So, but Land & Stone wants to put in sewer now? water
Hmm.
instead of the wells?
So the water fund we started in 2021 was for municipal water. And
Correct.
it even had 7 specific subdivisions around the quarry. And you probably
Right.
have seen this map. So the sewer topic is a complex one. The sewers, we don't really have a stake in that. But our stance, kind of like Dan said, is we agreed to a water fund. We wouldn't love or be friendly to the idea of the water fund running out while sewer is being installed. But if there's excess funds, then we're certainly friendly to that. We're not gonna take back money and say like, no, you got to do your water and everything. So, yeah, the sewer thing I think is a related topic, and Dan can speak this better than me, but when you cut a trench and you're putting pipe in that trench, it makes sense to put both pipes in at the same time.
Exactly, but it seems to me, if memory serves me right, the people in the area did not want sewer because of the cost, if I remember correctly. The residents, they were in favor of water coming in, but they didn't want to pay for the sewer because of the cost.
And I think we'll have to study that. We're looking,
That was brought up a couple, way back.
yeah, right now, I think the number one issue is the water. And the septic tanks also have, an impact on the water. that
Oh, sure.
we drink right now. So that water would solve both issues, but sewer is more down the line of when something things fail from
Okay.
a private homeowner perspective.
Okay, right.
And then do we want to, because like Nate said, we're cutting the road open, we're laying pipe, do we want to, as a cost saving measure, lay the other pipe in the ground while we have it open? And it's really important to consider when you look at Highway K, because they're gonna be redoing K in 2032, 2033. It will not let us rip open that road again, once it's already done. So if we're in there in say it's 2027. Do we wanna think ahead of the game and get pipe to the ground, maybe
Right.
not force any connections at that point for them to have it available. That would only be, I think, if there was money left over in the water fund, and then if it could be supplemented by the village somehow. But as of right now, I really wanna focus on water, and maybe Ben, or whoever we use, I'm recommending Nick Strand to do the water study to get this process going.
Mhm.
They can do a little bit more analysis on that on their end. But it's a long process just to get water too, and I put that in my report. Ben would provide me with some great, tips and details on the process that's in your report as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think Paul's point, we have to do something now with the water, because church is having issues. He's probably gonna have to replace wells this year, even prior to the water.
Sure, I understand. We need to do something, and we talked about that so long ago. And I guess the question that I've got is I think it's a great idea to put in the sewer lines at the same time. But you had said the village shouldn't have to pay for that. It's the residents that pay for that because they're benefiting from the sewer coming in their house, right, down the road.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how and that'll be a conversation we have with Ben and probably with Eller if it ever got. to that
Residents
point.
pay.
But
Mhm.
yeah, it would be the village as a whole through, the general fund, or
Mhm.
it would be the sewer building. The water.
Sure, I understand that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Well,
mean, I think it's important to note, we didn't even get to a public listening session the last time.
Yeah.
The utility committee met. We were in the process of discussing Circle Crest.
Mhm.
There was a few options, whether there was a road cut or if this was just a water scenario that was laid in the easement, that's just going through the soils in the right of way rather than open cutting the roadways. So we never, unfortunately for the subdivision, the wells dropped out in such a numerous amount within a short amount of time. The project never got fully conceptualized and no decisions were made. So Circle Crest just stopped because there was no need to further consider it. The policy was underdeveloped as far as a community goes for sewer and water policy. So I mean, this isn't gonna happen overnight either.
Mhm.
But, yeah,
Yeah.
we continue to collect. On behalf of the tipping tax, we continue to collect and the fund builds and we have a promise to. Since we brought Land and Stone Products into Lisbon, that was the idea of the community at the time was to collect this tax, so now we have this fund that we need to. Spend in a purposeful, meaningful way.
We're open-minded. I think you referred to this in your memo too, to a restructuring of the fund. If we need to front load more, we're friendly to that. We're friendly to kind of a creative funding situation if more needs to be available, because sometimes of the essence, so, you know, the redesign of Lisbon Road is one of the things that makes time of the essence. The other tricky thing is we look back at well replacements and what the water table's done, because we have, I think, 17 or 19 monitoring wells around our quarry that we always look at monthly to see where the water table is going. And there's these funny runaway events with the water table where if there's even a modest drought for 9 to 12 months, that's when you start seeing wells that are more shallow fully fail. And you never know when the next drought's going to be, right? That's, if you did, you could probably make a lot of money, but you don't. And so the other thing that's time is of the essence is we've identified kind of southeast of the quarry, something like 28 wells. It could be as high as 50, but the DNR doesn't have perfect records for every single house as well. You just have the records for the houses that when their driller put it in, they register it with the state. So, but we have a sense of 20 some wells, if we have another year-long drought, are probably going to have issues. And so that's another thing that just makes us think like, gosh, let's keep moving on getting this done. You're absolutely right. This doesn't get done next month. It gets done the next 3 years. You know, these things take a minute. So that's heavy on our minds, is if we have another drought in the next 18 months, we may have one less neighborhood to consider for municipal water.
I mean, and that. It's not fully agendized, but. That's something that we just discussed at the. Utility is that. We have to have a plan, this kind of, from the sewer angle, the sewer service area. Map fits into this, you know, within some of their zones. There is undeveloped parcels. That may convert if you look at if you match all the maps up. You know, and. I don't want people to be freaked out by this thinking we're trying to ram sewer down their throats, but. You know, they have an obligation to help us get to where they need to be as far as planning, because they have a financial liability hanging out there and. You know, we have a solution that we can put in play.
Can I ask how much is in the fund?
Something around 1.5 million. Dan,
Yeah, it's just a little.
It's not
Yeah.
gonna cover sewer.
No. So that's what's in there today,
That's for
Yeah.
the water, that's not. for
Right,
sewer.
exactly.
Yeah.
but it keeps on accumulating until you get to
Yeah.
15-ish million.
To how much?
15.
Okay, and how much is added every year, thereabouts?
So it's a tonnage fee until we hit a certain amount with an inflation escalator in there. So it's going to land at between, I don't know, something around 15 million in, was it 20 years from 2021 to 2041?
Depends on the pay, how much they take out. Every ton they take out, they're
Yeah.
putting money
I
in.
think it's 17 cents a ton, something like
Yeah,
that.
and it adjusts with
Yeah,
that right now.
it could, yeah.
And yeah, and the goal. For them is not to wait till the fund's big enough, right, you know, in 2041, for us to then be like, okay, we gotta use it.
Yeah, and
I think that's what he's talking to.
Be a lot more expensive.
So are your wells coming out of this fund right now, or is this just for the city? hall?
we're footing the bill for those wells right now. So, yep.
So is the study that you want Strand to do gonna take what Mark kind of had said, and take consideration, putting the possible sewer map over the water map and see how that all kind of plays out with
I think it's kind of
undeveloped
open right now.
parcels and such?
Yeah, so I've been,
Cause it'd be good to get a big picture, to do like a big picture piece of it.
yeah, I think what we do is, we get a scope, bring it back to the building board for you guys to, that scope. And then you can have the cost estimate and then whether we want to include the sewer in that or whether we don't want to. I don't necessarily. I'm not opposed to including sewer in the scope, if that's the key part of it, the part of the, like, the ground mostly,
Yeah.
so. And that's a conversation we can have. Well, because
Mhm.
the plan of the study is, if we're gonna use quarry funds, obviously, to pay for it.
Mhm.
So whether we're paying to look at another utility that maybe necessarily pay off. Contributed to that issue. That those are discussions we can have later. Right now, I just need the green light to go forward, so I can talk to Ben and say, hey, let's get a scope of this project together. Present some. And he can, and potentially move forward and be, water. However, whatever capacity that we're gonna have, this is gonna be a long process, so it's not gonna be here's your quote for, extending water, it's gonna be little quotes for, similar to a couple for us that would. Be a long process.
So we're talking about a timeline in years, not in.
Mhm.
Because you have to go through the DEC, and Sussex has to be a partner in this too, because it's their water utility. Most times we have our own water utility, so they're basically their customers that they're extending water to.
Mhm.
Until such time as that we ever have our own separate water utility, then like those customers, that are. So they have to go to that their water. That we determine how many customers per mile are being serviced, and where's the water gonna loop to, and. A lot of planning before.
Yeah, and I think it'd be definitely prudent to go through these considerations and just outline.
Yeah.
Where
Or maybe even see
where we
what
are.
water costs on one price with water and sewer. So you get an idea if it's double or if it's just a little bit more to add sewer or.
Yeah, we did some preliminary planning through Kunkel. When we looked at Circle Crest, and there was. Rough estimates, I mean, we just got to soil boring, so that was kind of laid out. Estimate wise, and I mean, there is a substantial addition for sanitary sewer with an open cut.
Mhm.
Once you add it.
Mhm.
Versus just doing water inside the right away.
And it becomes a no-brainer to do the sewer if there's failing septics and there's a desire for it. And on top of that, if there's offset with money to be paying for it, but if there would be special assessments and they're not failing, then that changes the equation, so those are all things that need to be considered.
Mhm.
And
Are we
also
able-
consider the fact that it's water and the residents don't have to pay for it. They're gonna have to pay when they start, so you will get pushback from residents on this. Right. So it's important that you guys are well equipped with the from me or myself, and make sure that they're aware of all the benefits that this is, and it's not just coming out of a monthly bill that now they have to pay. Health concern, placing well cost. And it's a major inconvenience that happens to them. And bring- so, But we have to be prepared to have those discussions, have open meetings. Right?
Mhm.
Fair.
Do we have any idea if any septics are failing right now or? Will we at
I
some
don't know
point?
about septics, I just know wells. All the septic things might be fine, it's just, the issue with wells and with the soils in the area, maybe, or if I'm wrong, it's that they don't absorb the septic fluid as well, that's layer. So the potential for issues like the church is having right now. Can happen. The issue with churches is regulated. But so private wells, private septic. So we have.
So it could be an issue, but we just,
Mm.
unless somebody self-reports or somehow a report gets flagged to the DNR, we're not gonna know.
I could speak to why some of the septic stuff's going on too. So the same reason we're here, which is because there's very, very shallow bedrock. There's almost no soil on top of some of the bedrock at our quarry here in the area. Is the same reason that a lot of the septic systems are struggling. So a good septic in your side yard, your backyard has got 10, 15, 20 feet of gravel to percolate through. But when you've got 2 or 3 feet of gravel to percolate through, what happens is stuff gets flushed out to it, and then it reaches the limestone, finds a vertical crack, and travels right into your local aquifer. And that's why there's a lot of water quality issues in private wells, because the casing standards were different in the 60s and 70s when all those wells were put in. And so you got septic systems that in some cases are draining 12 feet down right into their neighbor's well. And that's unfortunate.
Right, and I mean, when we did the initial borings for Circle Crest, we found that there was not very much earth to work with except for rock.
It's great for opening a new quarry, rough for most of the other stuff.
Or the other neighborhoods where you've identified, possible well problems, if there is an upcoming drought, or the residents aware of that, if there is 18 months of no rain, that there could potentially be problems with those wells?
I haven't had a ton of proactive conversation. And I'll say that there must be a lot of conversation that happens, because generally speaking, when a well does fail, my cell phone rings, even for someone I've never met, within 12 hours or less of that event. So I think there's a lot of broad, but maybe vague understanding of the situation.
I think a lot of the residents in these identified areas, like you said, they know what to do if something bad happens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And they
Yep.
know,
yeah.
they
And I
know
don't,
where that's coming from,
villain and a hero very easy.
yeah, I don't know how many of them are shocked when it happens either.
right?
Like it's worth looking into.
Oh, yeah, I think it was-
Ball started.
Yeah, I mean, the master plan for the last couple of years was to do something like this, right? I mean, so. There's a recommended motion here in the agenda.
Yeah, just clarification for administrator, you're asking for funds, is there an allocation expectation for that? Is,
What do you mean allocation?
what are you looking for? I hate to make just an open
Like
check,
a
but
dollar figure?
yeah,
I have no idea, because I think it's going to be a reoccurring. Hiring an engineer. Or we're probably get monthly bills at that point. But what I'll do is I'll get a service contract for an engineer, so that you guys have rates. That contract.
can we just, and I guess
Table it.
administratively, can you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you guys just wanna give me a direction without a formal motion. Rather.
I mean, I think we can memorialize it with a motion, but just ask for direction.
Just
to
ask.
Yeah,
Report when the funds are being used.
Exactly.
agreed.
Marcus or Linda, you want to make, I mean, this is probably your area of expertise.
I'll make a motion to approve to allocate funds from the quarry fund for hiring an engineering firm to collaborate with both communities in extending water service to the affected areas. And for status updates on expenditures to be provided to the board by the administrator.
Is there a second?
I second.
Did we want to,
Put a limit in there?
put something into that, not just water, but also possible sewer combined?
I think we'll have to open discussion, but we're open to discussion.
So, yeah, we're still, I mean,
Oh,
we're
I'm
still
sorry.
discussion. No, yeah, so motions are made and seconded.
Mhm.
Gonna have further discussion now. So the agenda, it's been agendized for just water, but I think they're so related and we can kind of give discussion,
yeah, that's all I
give
was asking.
direction to Dan to, not have a extremely narrow focus that it includes just water.
I think it's very related.
Okay,
I don't
I don't,
foresee amending it. I think the direction's been given.
good enough.
Right, but that's, yeah, obviously a very valid point.
Mhm.
Right, any other discussion? Right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Thanks for having me out tonight.
All right, thank you,
Thank
Nate. Item 5C is discussion regarding park facility upgrades, and other future capital expenditures. Dan or Paula, do you?
Yeah, sure. So this was requested to be on the agenda. So in 2024, it was budgeted at roughly $2 million of borrow would happen to upgrade the park facilities. At, I believe all of the parks, or at least most of them. There were.
Thank you.
Sorry. There were quotes for park equipment. There wasn't quotes for installation necessarily, but there were also quotes for public facilities, just standalone public facilities. They also had quotes for some pavilions, for a pavilion, I believe, at the community park. They were just quotes. They weren't necessarily installation, engineering, sewer, water, all those things taken into consideration. And so from staff's perspective, I'd like to have somebody look at this, who specializes in park planning and whether that's an engineering firm or a firm that specializes in parks and this kind of thing, but so I guess I'm coming to you guys. I know it was requested to be on the board by a couple of board members, but looking for some direction on this as far as if you guys want to get into some direction so that I can move forward and make this happen. And open up the conversation. We haven't had an open conversation on park facility updates since I've been here. So if you could get.
Mhm. Well, we as a park committee, I mean, ever since, I've joined, have been talking about, looking at the facilities. Stone Family Park is the kind of the newest one, that doesn't need a lot of TLC. Most of the other parks really do, and, not a lot of, attention really has been paid to them in quite a while. So we do need to do some updating. I know one of the biggest priorities that the park committee and people that we've talked to is, putting flush toilets up at LCP. That's the premier park we have in our system. So we want to expand that facility, try to get some more events up there, kind of expand it a little bit, grow the park system. And honestly, at first, I didn't like the idea of spending money on doing a study, but I know you and I talked about that. Because this is a lot of money we're talking about, and this is tax money for people. And I think that we need to have a really well thought out plan by people who do this, that can help us shop the equipment properly, put the correct things in that are going to be most valuable in the parks that we have currently available. So I think the direction I would like to kind of see right at the moment is to hire a firm that does a park evaluation specifically. That could go and look at what we've got. And we could certainly give some recommendations on the properties that we have, like where we'd like to see them go. Again, focusing on LCP first, just because that's our premier park. And get an actual plan put together, because that's a lot easier to sell to the public too, right? Here's the plan. We have concrete things, we can put it together. And I think, Dan, I had read something you would put together. You put a really comprehensive list about kind of how to go about doing that. Eventually we'd have renderings and we could really come up with something that would be formal. People would understand where the money is going and, those types of things, as well as looking to partnerships with big businesses that we have here. Do they want to sponsor a shelter? Do they want to sponsor, a piece of playground of equipment? Because this stuff is expensive. But the village is growing. We've got a lot of new great developments going on there, people moving in here. And I think it's worthwhile to have good, safe, new, beautiful spaces for our residents and the kids that are here. And for little kids and big kids. I mean, I'm gonna put that in there too, because, we talk about playground equipment, but I know pickleball has been talked about and other things for adult entertainment outside as well as maintaining open space in our trails and all the things that we've got going. So there's a lot of moving pieces that go with it. Certainly I have my ideas, but everybody's got their ideas. That's why I think it would be smart to get somebody that doesn't have kind of, a personal thing. I live across the street from a park, or I want to see this or that, but can really focus on it and look at it from like a really strategic long-term growth plan. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
And just to add, I would like included in this, somebody that looks at our parks plan, because the other data next year, we can determine future impact of spending as well.
Yep.
That, since we're, opening the hood, we can have, look into that as well.
Yeah, and just another thing on that too, with the, additional, housing units we're putting in, I know we've got, probably more park land that we're gonna have to put into the system as well, so we're gonna have to figure out how that's all gonna play in. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts.
Well, the impact fees was something I had written down here to talk about as well. So I mean, I'd like to know how, what we have in that fund, and we know that that can be spent, impact fees can be spent on new improvements, to additions to the park, not on maintenance or replacements of items. So I think we're looking at doing both, so there's room for both the borrow to spend for replacement of items and new items, as well as impact fees for new items.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like to keep the borrowing to a minimum, there's other things we could certainly borrow for, but I think with the partnerships, Landstone, and that's a great partnership, we've got Woodwards in the village, we've got 4 other quarries, which I'm very fine.
Could you just talk a little louder?
Sorry.
Thank you.
We have a lot of businesses that can definitely contribute, I think. Holcomb is a lot of our sponsors that help with the community aspect. So I think whether it's a naming rights issue or that's what pavilions named after, a certain donor or whatever. That's that much we can get for
Yeah, and then again, just to have something to bring to them and present and say, this is what our vision is, and this would love to, have you there. I think it's.
And
There you go.
keep in mind, I believe that our parks plan for impact fees that was done 5 years ago does talk about our pavilion. There are other things that we can spend, that's out of money that we already have, we don't have to necessarily borrow for it. And so that really might help determine borrow and what we ask from actually. So.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, I want to say it's like 650,000.
Okay, all right. And I think if we're, asking for this facilities, study and plan, I mean, we want to make sure they have some direction that's, I mean, we're not looking to put in a pool or a splash pad. I mean, we're not going, I mean, Lisbon's a different community than some other communities in the area, so I just don't want someone to come in and make a study that's an expensive study that has stuff in there that we have no intention of doing.
I agree.
Yeah.
Not just, oh, here's $2 million, give us a $2 million park.
There's gonna be a lot of communication back and forth with staff and with residents, because they're gonna want to get residents feedback. And if they're doing a needs assessment, then they're required to get information from residents. That's the requirement.
Yes, we'll actually get to know who uses the parks and what people want to see in them, and nobody uses this park because missing this or something.
Yeah, well, and I mean, there's a lot of, I would say deferred maintenance is just.
Yeah.
Some parks that are. Probably got rusty nails. So.
Let's hope not, but.
The point is, there are some that definitely need it, updates. So it's a good time.
And regarding the, future capital expenditures, I mean, it was in the packet and talks about our debt service. I mean, I think everyone would love to have our, taxes go down dramatically, but then you don't want to have them go up, dramatically the next year. So I think to have that be smoothed out makes a lot of sense. So we do have a drop off coming, and we do have needs coming, so we need to kind of match that, and we can match that with parks and roads and other items, and then if need be, if it's a bond of large borrowing over 10 years, or if it's shorter term, to kind of steady the ups and downs on the debt service budget.
Yeah, just I was just gonna say, one other thing that we discussed on the park committee level too, was either the company that does the study or have to figure out how to do it, but there's a lot of grants available as well. So I think between, some borrowing, a good solid smart plan to do the parks, some partnerships with businesses, plus some grants, I think we could, I think just combine it would be a very powerful thing.
Yeah, I know,
altogether.
John Greighton was great at doing the grants
Yeah.
and getting
Yeah.
those. So I mean, I
He
know
was
that
great.
there's some, I'm not sure what Mike's track record is, but I'm sure he's very much aware of it and will, I mean, you can speak to that at what his success is, but if there's a classes he can take on that or other, knowledge he can get, then I'm sure Nick would be involved as well. So
Yeah,
that's extremely important. I would agree.
it's a complicated process and you have to really know how to do it. There's a way to do them. So I don't know what expertise Mike has in it or not. He sent a couple things my way to look at. But I don't know if, the company that we hire would have some kind of, help to do that, or at least point us in the right direction. But anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there too, is another source of help.
I talked to somebody from Architecture, who's one of the companies that will probably send the RFP to. They do grant writing, they do a lot of that stuff for on behalf of us.
Yep.
Obviously, we'll have to, cross the dotted lines. Supplement that information for them, but the other company is Gold, our engineering firm. They also do things like this. They would have to contract out for like the park, that kind of stuff. But they also would be one that I'd probably send an RFP out to, along with Ari Smith. And there's other companies like Architecture as well, but all of those, any engineering company is gonna know exactly how to write grants for anything, because that's maybe what all. And I had mentioned the Parks Committee that the county also has plenty of different grant with, lists and options. Not Sarah, the engineering firm does it, but a lot of times counties recommend parks for development, whether it's a pocket park or what have you. And they really push those, they push trails. So in order to do that, they also provide information to the municipalities in regards to different funding options in the state and federal grant options.
I'm just real curious if they, because I know John would thought it was great to put in some bathrooms there. Where does the water come from? It says the flush. Where does that connect to?
So that was my point about the cost for the actual structure, but doesn't include the well or the.
Exactly.
Or the holding.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
I mean, there are existing wells up there.
pardon me?
There are existing wells.
Not in the park, in the
This-
park?
This
Yeah, they got
Yeah,
the
there's
building up
bubble
there.
up there.
Oh, yeah,
To the- to
that's
the
right.
pavilions
You're
up
right,
there
you're right,
service
you're right.
that.
It is, it is.
Water and electric already.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, that all up was very preliminary. I mean. we
Oh,
just
I know.
Started to just try to kind of get a thought process of, we're talking $200,000 or $2 million, like, where is it all going? So, yeah.
Okay, that was just a quick question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how much, the question is, how much direction do we
Yeah,
need to give Dan tonight? How much do you need from us and where do we expect to? I mean,
What I'm looking for is, I have a draft RFP that's out to the attorney being reviewed right now, which I think his staff members get back to me. So I would like to get approval to send out an RFP, so we can quotes on the cost. That's.
yeah.
So is the draft, can we read through the draft?
Or I can, I guess I can get the draft back to you at the next meeting, and then if you feel comfortable with it, then. We can go from there. So,
Okay,
I mean,
Sure.
these improvements are gonna happen until probably next year, so. We have a good amount of time for them to do their research.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way to go, but and I'm just gonna say right now, I don't want this to kind of get like, I think we're starting this, we're gonna
go
keep
forward.
going, we're just
Yeah.
moving along here, yeah.
So there's timelines on the RFP for them to be back to us, timelines for us to interview candidates, and then timelines for the village board to approve.
Okay,
Once we approve that, then it's.
are we gonna, do you know off the top of your head if those timelines are gonna have us in time for budget, so we would know as far as,
I'm not sure.
okay.
It'd probably be close, but it'll be before we approve the budget, probably be sometime.
So I think it would be important to kind of tie those two together.
Yeah, 'cause if you approve the RFP in July, I can get the RFP out by late July. If- And then, yeah, we have time.
Okay.
I think some of the things we also need to address is, well, we have an approved budget that allocates the $2 million. Inside of it. What are we gonna do for the 25 budget to address that?
If they just amend the budget. They have borrowed this year and then we'll just carry it over to next year. It may be less, maybe more, we have. But I think if we budget the same for next year and then it turns out the costs are less than what we anticipate. I don't think there's anything wrong with coming in under budget. But that's why I have other items here to discuss.
Sorry.
And big picture items, because that's right, people, that drop off in 27. If we borrow, anything we borrow in 26, it's our debt in 27. So we want to start having those conversations very soon. Well, so I just want to throw that out there. Parts borrowed, not going to be enough to make up for that drop off. That's kind of why I put some of the Ellers reports in here, so you can see what, for example, a $12 million borrow looks like. That basically just balances out your, depending on how you structure that, but that would be enough to balance out. Even last down. Sorry. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. There are plenty of things that we're gonna have to borrow for. So that discussion doesn't necessarily have to be tonight. I just want to get it out there. It'll definitely be a budget time discussion for some of these items.
Again, and that goes back to, I mean, if we have to do $12 million to get the, debt service budget to be similar to what it is now, well, if we don't have the need for $12 million of this stuff, then we will take out a smaller loan and we could, pay it back in a quicker amount of time and still have the payments be, to smooth out that debt service budget. So I don't have my hands around all of our needs, like, hopefully the three of you two have been on the board longer, and so Rob and I need to get up to speed on that as well. And Dan obviously knows this stuff, but he's, new to this as well. So I'm not, the roads and other needs, we're certainly going to discuss a lot more in the next couple of months.
Like, so we need to start putting a list together, so we've got, our wish list, for lack of a better term, like what do we want to see, and then we can prioritize and go from there.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
you've got a lot of that in place already. It's just, we needed to analyze all that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and everyone get on the same page.
And Kathy had that list started, some of that needs to be amended. I've been changing some of it as I go along, but. Yeah, we can definitely bring that back.
Also, too, we need to address, there's about 391,000 in projected projects inside of this plan for 25. What are we doing with those? There's fire station, highway garage, roof repair, lift for highway garage, and replacement of 5 units. Unit heaters at the DPW and fire station.
That's 25.
Well, those projects were approved and discussed. It was anticipated to wrap those 3 into the $2 million borrow. So those projects essentially are gonna become unfunded.
So the lift was approved, I think at a 2024, I don't know if it was a 2025 budget item.
Mm-mm.
But it's something that we do need to address, because the lift they have, they keep running them bottles into, which is not. Next year, you can speak to it, I wanted to, then it was on this stuff, but you can incorporate these costs into the parks borrow, it doesn't have to be a borrow, the parks borrowing, it's not, you can borrow. If it's a $2.3 million borrow instead of a $2 million borrow, it's actually how we structured the borrowing for this year. But we were able to pay for some of the things that we had expected to borrow for through proceeds of other debt that didn't go specifically to what was allocated for. So So those, I think it was the roller and a trailer for next, that was budgeted along with the borrow. So we were able to accomplish those, but some of these, ticket items, you're gonna probably have to roll into the parks borrow. And if we can get that parks borrow number down $2 million, potentially through impact fees, donation, what have you.
Is this roof repair something that we gotta do now, or it's gonna get more expensive, cause it's gonna collapse, or what's the problem?
It's not gonna collapse, but it definitely needs to be done within the next 2 years.
Well, so that's, we have time on it, it's not like it's leaking
Doesn't have
right
to
now,
be
there's
done
not buckets
today,
sitting in there or
Needs
something.
to be done soon. Deferred maintenance that. Deferred maintenance. And the heaters definitely need.
Any other questions or discussion? I think we're kind of on this, all on the same page. So you got, you kind of, you said how you'd like to move forward, so you can have that back to us and have that on the July agenda.
Yeah, I'm
Perfect.
pretty sure. It's ready to go.
Perfect,
Attorney, so we'll have that.
okay.
And so, and then you can have that, I mean, the Parks Committee, I know it's only meeting an hour and a half ahead of that, but they can, I mean, certainly be made aware of that and
Oh, yeah, of course.
then have any additional thoughts that you guys have to pass
Can-
on.
Can we also request Ellers for updated
Yeah.
financial analysis?
I'm sorry, updated what?
Financial analysis.
We had left it kind of in two directions with them because they didn't know quite certain if we were gonna do this or not at the time. They just gave us a projection for it, so
Mhm.
we're not gonna be able to follow that projection anymore, so they're gonna have to come in and give us an updated scope of that borrow.
Okay,
And we also want to kind of know what projects we want to do, right? I mean, what comes first?
We're not gonna sign a resolution for borrowing when they come, we're just gonna give financial information, and what I provided in here, this is the 2025, this was done by Ellers in, I believe, February or March of this year. To help facilitate what we thought maybe we were gonna borrow this year. So yes and no, I mean, they probably want a good idea, or you guys wanna have a good idea of
Mhm.
how you wanna fix that cost, right? 'Cause like I said, the parks borrow, you're not gonna be able to do a parks borrow for, $2.3 million and spread it out over 3. Easy.
Wait, so why not?
Because these are bonds, and so I mean, they can do that,
But we don't need to do bonds. Right? I mean, we could take out, I mean, as long as it's debt service that qualifies, you could do a shorter instrument, you could do a bank loan. Well, this is, I think we need to,
discussion, yeah.
They set their idea up off of a 10-year geo idea, right, was the 2 million, but we didn't essentially have a long-term, like, say if it was for Village Hall, there was no like 20-year geo in there.
but my point is, I guess I'm not going to get boxed in, I don't think any of us want to taking out a certain amount of money, and once we do, then we're obligated to pave 10 miles of road in the next 2 years and build a $5 million Village Hall, and I mean, I don't think any of us want to do that, and I don't know that that's what's being stated here, but it also talks about a large borrow for, I mean, other things that we're not, I know the 5 of us aren't all on the same page yet. I mean, the Village
guess
Hall and other items are not, I'm not ready to have that
Why-
discussion yet.
well,
Why would we not borrow for what we know we're gonna use it for?
I think I would agree, but I don't know that we all know what we need or
Yeah.
want yet.
I think we really need to get a list together. We have to have
Yes.
something on paper to say, okay, here's the 20 things that we want to do. We can do 8 of them or
Yes.
12 of them. We
I
gotta
agree.
pick
I
them,
mean,
we
if
gotta
we're not gonna borrow
prioritize them.
obviously, if you're not gonna borrow for Village Hall, there's other things on that list, including road projects. There's capital equipment that needs to be purchased. My concern with, even if it is possible to do a 3-year borrow for $2.3 million, well, then you're not providing any room borrow within those 3 years, if something comes up. So there's.
Right, you're exactly right.
I think we gotta, I'll provide a list to you guys.
Yeah, the list would be helpful.
Probably.
Yeah, like needs and wants,
How
right?
mu- how
There's
much
certain
we
things we need to
tomorrow
do and
keep
things we
that
want to do.
service The same level,
think.
and then let's pick out the projects we can do to build up what we need to spend.
I mean, I think it's well known that we're not quite keeping up with, there was a large borrow, that's almost a decade now, but there was a large borrow, actually it might be over.
No, it's just
Up
under,
on the 10 years.
Yeah.
We did a large borrow for road improvements. We're gonna be falling back into that. Pavement's gone way up, oil's gone way up. We talk every year at budgeting that we're not ever getting ahead of the roads, and then we fall back into a borrow. So I mean, that's definitely something that needs to be on our radar.
so do we not have like a 5-year plan with
We have
what
this-
roads that we're planning on doing each of the night? So can that be included, I mean, passed on to everyone on the board? as
Yeah,
well?
Nick and I are meeting with, Mitch to facilitate that 10-year plan, so we're gonna be sitting down and going through all of the major ratings. picking out the-
Perfect, and then,
And then we can get them back to you, whether it's, I don't know if you guys want budget time, or if you just wanna have a reoccurring item where we talk about capital budget.
I mean, I'm fine waiting until the budget time, but if Mark, if you or others think we need to be talking about that and then in the borrowing sooner than that, then we would certainly need that information sooner.
I would like that list sooner than later.
Right.
You look at it,
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't just be a list, it'd be strategic planning with
Right.
what
right?
our goals are.
Aren't there state funds that get allocated for road stuff, or
We
is
have
that,
transportation aids, so
Yeah.
the benefit to, spending more money on roads is transportation aids go up, so we actually received a decreased amount of transportation aids because of the fact that the borrowing we did for roads is starting to filter out of their cycle,
Mm,
so the more money we start putting back into roads, you're gonna see more transportation aids.
there's a
I
lot
don't
of
know
moving
how that
parts to
works,
this,
but
yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh,
the more money you spend, the more money they give you, the less they spend. the less-
gonna be spinning a lot of plates with that list. Well. We just. We just need to know what we're, where we're gonna. Battle our battles and all that kind of thing, and spend wisely. I mean, let's, this is all everybody's hard-earned money that they pay to the town. We wanna make, or excuse me, the village, we wanna make sure we spend it wisely and. Do the right stuff.
So, if you're good with, I'll have the RFP back to you guys, or we'll just.
Well, it was agendized as discussion only. So no motion.
Okay,
So can you just send the draft so we can just take a look at that really quick too?
Yeah,
To make
I
sure we're in
didn't,
the
I
right
didn't even
scope of
read
it.
it, so he's probably got it, marked up like crazy, so that we.
Yeah,
the
that's fine.
adjustments required, and then I'll.
Yep, perfect. That's great, thank you. Okay,
All right,
we're out.
I'll move on to item D then. Which is discussion only on a rotation schedule for trustee attendance at joint public hearings. I think someone I believe requested this item on the agenda.
I did.
Okay.
I did. I just thought it would be nice, so, because I know Elisa has a lot of problems trying to get somebody to come every month, not every month, the month. There are some months that aren't needed by a board member, some are. So I would suggest that we have a list that when someone is needed at the board meeting, we just kind of go, okay, say, you go first and you go second and I go third, or I go first, whatever it is. That Elisa will call that person and say, or email us and say, hey, we need you at this meeting. If you can't, it's up to you to get somebody else to cover for you rather than having Elisa do it. Or you can do it by Zoom, whatever you want to do. But I just think, it takes a lot of work and frustration out of her hands to do this. And I think it's just, to me, it's a no-brainer.
I'm
She
all
just
for it.
contacts us when the board needs someone. And tells us whose turn it is. It's up to that person to either do the Zoom, to go, or to get a replacement.
So the expectation is that the whole board be at board meetings. I mean, but there's a requirement for only to have a quorum, so.
do that.
but
Yeah, I
not
didn't know that either.
board meetings, but joint public hearings.
But a joint public
Yes,
hearing is
yes.
is a board meeting.
Correct.
So, I mean, the expectation is everyone's there, but yet there's only a requirement, the public hearing occurs as long as there's a quorum. If there's not a quorum, then the public hearing does not occur.
Right,
So
right.
that's why it's crucial that if Rob and I are always gonna be there, it's crucial that at least one of the three of
Exactly.
you are there.
Exactly, I understand.
And I like the idea of somebody being there in person, but if the worst comes to
Me
worst, you
too.
could always do Zoom, but.
Me too.
And last year I was not here a lot, so I did a lot of Zooming last year, but
Sure.
that's taken care of.
So you can work on that as,
Yeah, I'm
However
all in
you-
favor of that.
So throw a wrench in there. What happens if one of the two sitting members can't be there?
then we need
Third.
two, we need to have a quorum.
Then it moves
Then
up the
number two and
list.
three go.
Then she goes up the list, whose ever turn it is next, or whatever it is.
Well, that's
So-
the best. If everyone can make it, then great. I know it's not realistic, but
Yeah.
sometimes there's a lot of controversial issues during those public hearings that might be good for the board volunteer. Or at least to join a.
Because they're all gonna make it up to this level at some point,
Mhm.
unless
Yeah,
they.
that's
I mean,
true.
I'm already at all of them.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, if, obviously, if Rob or I are going to miss a meeting, we will give as much notice as we can.
But when you go to them and you see the full parking lot, you walk in, you know there's gonna be some,
Yeah.
there's gonna be some discussion.
Turn around.
Yeah.
I'm sick.
Yeah. Whoa,
What am I walking into?
yeah.
All right,
Yeah, sounds good.
so we're good there then?
You okay?
So you'll develop something in a rotation, and if
Sure.
everyone's taking
I-
their turn is I think is what
We'll
Linda's
talk
point
about
is, right?
I can
Okay.
try and put together a draft schedule and have you guys fill in with your availability and.
No, I don't think that's the way it should go, because we never know what our availability is in a month, 3 months down the road. You know, we have no idea in that case. I just think it should be myself assigned.
I'll do whatever you guys want me to do.
Yeah.
Just give me some direction that you
But-
want me to run with.
But we don't always know when I mean, we might have two joint public hearings back to back.
Exactly.
So we won't know, so here's what the way to work, I mean, you know, pretty much 5 weeks in advance if there's going to be a joint public hearing, so
Exactly.
if this month so if there is one, everyone
that's
should
what
attend, but
the-
at a minimum Linda attends. After, then the next month, everyone should attend, but if Linda just did last month, then Paula will go, and then
But
it's like go around, but if Paula can't make her month, then she's gonna find someone to fill in, and
yeah, I was just gonna say, why don't we just. If there's 3 non-sitting members, why don't we just, every third month you get it,
No, because then it's not every 3 months that we have to have somebody there.
but we can.
It's
plan that
not,
way.
it's not always, no, I disagree. I,
Well, I think
What if-
that's what you're saying though, is go through rotation.
a rotation,
So, Linda, then Paula, then Mark.
She's saying
then-
not
per
every
meeting.
month, because we never have
No, not every month, every meeting that's required.
that required.
Right.
That's it.
And then if
That's it, when
And then if-
required.
you can't make it, then
Yes.
it's on you. to find
Exactly.
somebody else to-
I agree wholeheartedly with that.
It all sounds great.
Like we're
until
overcomplicating
you can't
this.
make it, you contact.
It's so
her, you can't make it,
simple.
Mark can't make it.
It's so
Well,
simple.
if it's, yeah,
What
I
if
was just
so-
gonna say, so say you have the next meeting,
Mhm.
you can't make it,
Mhm.
no, we can't make it because.
Then I go on a Zoom, or somebody goes on a Zoom if we can't make it. There's choices there, because we want the meeting to go on. We don't want it to cancel it because we can't be there. So we just have to be responsible enough to do it.
What if we just did like a group text and whoever was there last
Can't do
time
that,
say it's
no,
not?
Can't.
Don't do that.
No,
walking
Walking
forum.
Well,
yeah,
You can do that, I won't respond.
I think it's a great idea.
Never mind.
Have Dan do
Why
it.
don't we try that and then see where it goes.
exactly. I think it's so
So
simple.
you're
To me,
talking
it's so
about, you're
simple.
talking about an as needed rotation.
Exactly.
We,
Well,
we,
what it is.
okay, so what I can do is just every time I send a public hearing notice to the newspaper, I'll make a point of sending it to you three and say, just so you know, it's so-and-so's turn this month.
For that meeting, for that joint, for the as-is meeting.
And,
Yep.
and people, I mean, have the different obligations and all that stuff, so if you're gonna give 5 weeks note, I mean,
Yeah,
notice, right, I mean. Usually, you know, these
So
public
it's
hearings,
usually 4.
Okay, because they have to be published and then they, so
Yep.
you know before the plan commission, the meeting the month before, what's gonna be on the next one typically.
Well, the plan commission date is the deadline for the next month.
Right, okay, so. So I think that should be long enough time for
Agree.
everyone to plan.
I
We,
agree.
we had talked at one time too about having a calendar, like a shared calendar. Can we do that?
Yeah, but nobody's used it, so I stopped putting things on it.
Yeah.
Where was it?
I think I sent.
Was it in
out-
Gmail?
Yeah, I probably sent out half a dozen emails about it.
Okay,
But
never
how-
mind.
Wasn't here then.
It was the as needed too, though. That won't work as the as needed.
Well, I mean,
If
then,
things
then
come up.
at least if you have like, if I know my turn's next and I have, I planned a vacation, I can see it far out in advance and I can say, oh, I know I'm not gonna be around, so I'm gonna talk to you about it or something.
But
I
you
don't know.
you don't
You
know when
don't
they're gonna
know.
hit though.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm saying.
You could have none this
When you
month.
get the notice that somebody's needed, just send it out to the person who's next. If they
Yeah.
can't make it, we'll work. make it.
Exactly.
They'll make it work.
Yeah.
Will do.
All right, item
That we overcomplicated that.
10E is discussion and necessary action regarding possible future rental of public facilities to Lisbon-based homeowners associations or nonprofit groups, including fees, logistics, and any necessary security updates.
Sure, so in October, we contracted with the Pewaukee Fire Department. And when we did that, we moved the servers over to Village Hall and we moved the village, election equipment to the fire station. And the room that it's in isn't necessarily all that secure, it's not that bolted, it's very easy to get access to that room, even if it's locked. And so we have been holding off on having HOA meetings in that room for that reason, and because we have village, or we have city of Pewaukee firefighters that are we're basically contracted with. They're not Lisbon staff, so we aren't setting the expectation that they go down there, unlock the room, lock the room, and that stuff. Now, they offer, which is great, but if they're on a call and they can't unlock that room in time, then, well, their HOAs are locked. So what I would propose is if we want that community room to be used by our HOA members, and I'm saying HOA, just HOA members, I don't wanna open this up to everybody and their grandmother who wants to rent out a room. Then we secure that door that the election equipment is behind by some type of bedroll that only we have the keys to in the office. We require some type of a deposit by the HOA in which they can get the key to that room to use it. And that has to be returned back to us the next day. Obviously we won't, if the HOAs can just give us a check, we're not gonna cash it, we'll just hold it until the time that they return the key. If it becomes an issue and then they don't return the key, well, then we have to re-key the door and that becomes an expense. That's the only reason I would ask for a deposit.
As an alternative to that, Dan, not to interrupt you, they locks now that are keypads, you can reprogram them real easy, you
They're
could just,
expensive, you get paid
okay.
ongoing cost. This is just simple, looking for simple solutions to a
Okay.
pretty simple problem. I would agree with that if we were renting out that room quite a bit, but I don't wanna necessarily do that because even though the election equipment is secure, it's still there.
Mhm.
And we have other equipment in there, like our projectors and
Mhm.
that we need to live stream. So I would rather just have it used for HOA.
So I mean, historically, it's been used for homeowners association meetings and
It has been already?
it has been, yes, there's an existing policy that's been on the books for the last 12, 15,
Mhm.
probably 15 years. And I don't think it kind of went unnoticed because the fire department was taking care of opening and closing it. So when that went away, there was at least two subdivisions associations that contacted the village hall and then contacted me, and two of them made it to me. So I'm sure there's probably more than made it to you too, or maybe not, I don't know, but
I've
Um,
only heard from one.
I heard from,
I heard
okay, all right. There's Mountain Shadows and Lindell Farms that reached out to me.
What kind of attendance do they get? How many people are in there?
Never been to one. I have no idea.
Just curious, what happens if there's damage? Not that you anticipate damage, but are we on the line for damage if somebody hurts themselves there, trips themselves there, or whatever?
Well, it's like any other village-owned facility. So it'd be like if they rented a park pavilion and got hurt.
We're on the line?
As long as they're not
Actually, if
negligent.
they trip over something that's on the ground, then.
And you can be sued for anything.
I know.
Any reason.
I know.
And that's why I would live with the people that are using.
I mean, one thing an HOA meeting and get that out of hand.
I think when this this building opened, the building opened, which was when I was on the board. I mean, this was a viewed as an additional community asset that could be used by
Sure.
community members. So that's, and I think, Linda, I think you made the comment at the board of review meeting that, this room, should be used
It should be you.
as well. So,
Yeah,
but again, staff doesn't want this to be used for
anybody.
any, or rented
For
out, and
anybody.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
in agreement with that as
I don't
well.
want kids running around.
And my biggest concern is I have to certify to the state that our election equipment is secure.
Yeah,
Well,
And
regardless
with-
of-
even though those doors are locked, I can break into them in about 30 seconds.
Then
So-
regardless of what we do with the room, that has to happen.
Right.
You
period.
gotta put a
Right,
lock
yeah.
on the door.
Well, there's a,
There is a lock.
but
on
you're
it.
gonna put quality lock on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, you needed that.
Yeah.
So that should happen tomorrow, actually.
Well, right now, if you want to get into that room, you have to get a key from me.
That just contradicts what you kind of said, though. But so we need
No,
to
if-
secure
I
it
mean,
better
if
is
you
what
wanna
we're.
Get into the community room, you have to
That's-
get a key from me.
Right,
So you got
the
two
reason we're not
locks,
using
you
that
got
room is
Right.
because it's secure, no one's getting in unless the community room itself, not the other.
Right.
Gotcha.
So why what is the policy right now? I'm not aware of.
We don't have a policy.
We don't have a
We
written
had an
policy
original-
anywhere.
We have a policy. The policy cannot be found. There is a policy, I mean, unless the policy was voted to get rid of it in the last 10 years. There is an existing policy, but it can't be located. I found an article in the paper that gave us the date of when it was, but we still couldn't go back to the records and find it.
So
has
they
there,
call Lisa and they say, we're gonna be there next Thursday, and Lisa says, okay, come get the key. Basically is what happens. Now,
Well, right now, nobody is using the community room.
because of the election equipment.
Up until October,
has to be
they would just
secure.
contact the fire department directly and the fire department would let them in.
Oh, okay.
That's what's happened for the last
Oh.
15 years.
Gotcha.
But the election stuff wasn't down there before.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right, the election stuff used to be here when we had to, when
So what is?
we
What, yeah,
switched out.
here's my thing, why do we call it the community room if the community can't use it?
I agree.
Right,
Okay, so
and that got moved there.
let's restore
but
this.
Server
Let's
got
put this
moved.
back to the
here.
community room, move the election equipment.
yeah,
There's a whole second floor of the fire station that's not being used right now.
We can't put them, I mean, we'd have to drag them down like the stairs every time we want to.
They don't have elevators
They
there.
are, we just need deadbolt.
how
Well,
about,
then just deadbolt it, put
Yeah.
it, just do it.
You did file, good
How-
luck and.
how about the
What?
garage, in Nick's garage?
What?
Is there room over there?
I think-
So it has to, they have to be placed somewhere where Jasmine and I can access them.
Yep.
At least 4 times in advance of every election to
Yeah.
test them.
So
Well, and that's
Are they-
where you're using them,
Without
so why would we move
Nick's
them? Like,
assistance.
are they in
they
the,
should be there.
are they in the room just to like where the board
Yes.
would sit?
Yeah,
or
right there, the double.
What,
Yep.
what's in the room off like the southwest corner there? In
The kitchen, and then there's the door that only fire department staff can open.
what's, the entrance from the community room to the fire station?
Yep.
Not that one, but the other corner. So if you walk straight out of the bathrooms, what's in that back corner? If you look straight out of the bathroom.
But I have no
Water
idea.
softener? It was like utility room.
You only had that, the kitchen and that other room.
I mean, I don't mean to, I didn't want to complicate this.
I just put a lock on it and be done with it. That fixed
Why-
the problem.
Yeah, we can put a deadbolt on. that
Sure,
Yeah,
Door.
we just need to secure the doors.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it brings up a bigger issue. Why are we allowing homeowners associations to use it, nobody else?
Because there's other equipment that we don't want to get damaged, and we also don't want liability issues. wants to throw a birthday party in there, we don't wanna have this.
Oh, that would be a mess.
Somebody to-
But what's the difference between an HOA meeting and,
Food.
somebody that wants to privately rent the room?
Food,
They, I mean,
drinks.
Well, I mean.
are we
that's-
not, do we have a agreement in place with these HOAs?
We know that with the
No.
HOAs, we know the residents, that would be
Yes.
the difference. Unless you, I mean, you could obviously open it up to others who we know are
And it's
residents.
generally gonna be adults at an HOA meeting too. You're not gonna have the kid
Yes,
thing.
exactly.
But I mean, it's a private entity renting it for a private purpose.
Well, that brings
So-
a good.
Are
point.
they-
I think legally, how are we keeping Joe, anybody else? Fine, say they're a Lisbon resident, say I, who am not part of the HOA, wants to go sit in on that meeting.
Yeah.
Do they have exclusive use of that room or not?
Well, that's, I mean, that brings a good point that, I mean, if there's reasons why other communities stopped allowing, you know, they have nonprofit groups who would be allowed to serve community groups. Well, they stopped that because what constitutes a nonprofit? Could have nonprofits that you don't necessarily agree with, using that route. Or we could have HOAs using that. That's our argument that we used, in other communities that ended up, the attorney recommended not to let anybody.
Where have they gone in the past, the HOAs though?
Sounds like in that room.
Have you,
Up
that,
until October, they were using.
okay, well, I can understand them. I myself, I guess for simplicity purposes and easeability, just go with the HOAs. I understand what you're saying, Mark,
Why?
because it
If
just
it's the
opens it
community
up.
room for our citizens, why can't we give it to them?
You wanna rent this one out?
Call it a
We
meeting, call it a meeting room instead
rent-
of a community room.
Yeah.
So it's
We
like
rent,
10
we rent our
meetings.
baseball fields out to
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
That's different though, right? I mean,
It's a
Rename
public paid.
because
facility.
once you get into this room, it's a lot easier to get into
Yeah.
that door than it is if you're locked out of the building altogether.
Are we charging people for this? Is there a fee?
No,
Not either way.
no.
Why though?
Because
we-
they're already paying taxes.
Well, we can require them to make donations.
Oh, yeah.
We charge our citizens who play baseball on our fields to play there.
I was just thinking if we're gonna have people going in there, we charge them so then we can do upgrades and this door won't be hollow anymore, or things like that. So then it wouldn't be as big of an issue.
Oh, this is government.
If it was up to me, I would have just gone with, we had the existing policy, we found the existing policy and we kept the existing policy without bringing it back to the board because it's already what's on the book. So can we just,
Exactly.
But we don't
Well,
have a policy.
we do have a policy, we just can't locate the policy.
That's called hearsay.
No,
Can we do common sense here?
What,
Can't ask her. I was wondering if
what is
Becky
the,
can
what
get
is the
first.
common sense?
Secure the door, put a deadbolt on that immediately.
Well, I think we're all in agreement on that.
Okay, so step one there, rename it to a meeting room, so then you're not gonna, then it's not a community room, so not all the community would do it. Make it a meeting room, so you can have meetings there, so HOAs would have meetings. I would say that's, maybe
That's
go
good.
that route,
I think that's good.
cause you do board meetings there, you do plan commission meetings there, so basically it's used for meetings, it's set up for a meeting, it's not set up for a party or a whatever.
Then they'd have to have water, they'd have to have this, and
Yeah.
they, for parties, it's a mess.
That's a lot.
Sven, ready to make a motion?
I think we need to, I mean, we got this agendized, let's not rush this. What is the purpose of having a community room if we're not gonna allow the community to use it?
Now, it's a meeting room now.
So are we renaming it now?
I could. If that, it
Mark,
simplifies.
What would you rather? We do? Would you rather we just have it as another,
So if,
rental facility that people can rent out?
But then do we have to staff it if we're gonna do that? Do we
Yeah.
have to set up,
We don't
like,
have
what
to
is our?
staff it, but we have to.
I'll give you an example. What if Sherwood Forest wants to come in here and have their annual meeting at
Gosh,
the meeting room?
What's your?
Are they allowed to?
it's archery. We
Archery
used to
club.
belong to that too.
Property owners who potentially have a large meeting for a private entity.
If you wanna have us draft a policy that is village of Lisbon specific, but what makes it a community room for residents, we can do that, but I don't know that the community room necessarily is one that you wanna try to make money on either.
I'm not saying money, I'm talking where there's a liability here.
Well, I think that staff can use its discretion to say whether it's an HOA or a local business that wants to have a meeting, that we can still treat them the same way. I don't want to have whether Village of Lisbon or Village fix and we don't have a venue for them. They bring cake, they bring kids, then you have liability.
Sandwiches
Then
and
you gotta
things.
have staff go and make sure
Yeah.
the room is.
And make sure microphones aren't damaged in the projector
Yep.
and.
We
the
discussed
system.
all this, like the birthday party thing and all that. 16 years ago when we were debating this, I mean, and I think we arrived on not having it for birthday.
Yeah, but I think
Parties.
something
So,
to that example, like you said, I don't think staff is gonna have an issue with that. Or possibly wants to have a meeting of their members or something like that, they don't have to make an approval for it.
Nobody under 18,
What's that?
nobody under 18,
Mhm.
unsupervised, and. None of this is set up for any 6-year-olds to run around here and
Well-
do stuff. It's just not a. Kid
Well, it's
friendly
not like we'll
thing.
make people sign waivers every time they have
Yeah.
a group either, so.
And-
And if I was a kid, I'd be over there pulling the wires out. I know exactly what I'd be doing.
Does the HOAs that use this sign a release liability?
Not that I've ever seen.
Do they have a terms of use? Do they have a liability for damages?
Mark, we've been doing this for 15 years and
I
have
don't
had
care.
no,
It could
have
be
had no issues,
For
right?
15 years.
But if we had any issue, any known issues for
We
the last,
don't plan for reactive issues. That's what you have insurance for. You plan policies for the potential use of a space.
Well, then write the policy that says that the.
Why does
the
our-
Lisbon Village staff gets to approve
Fine,
The
that
folks
is a
that are
policy,
gonna
not
be in
something
there.
that doesn't exist.
and make it a meeting room, and then you don't have to worry about Timmy's 6-year-old. birthday
Does our
party.
insurance cover a private entity using meeting
Probably not.
space? So we knowingly have an exposure that we're not preventing.
It is
Planning for.
included. Our insurance covered.
For a public function, that is what our insurance.
but it goes
is for.
back to the renting of a shelter. I mean, that's a private gathering at a shelter. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
we
they
have
sign-
insurance.
they
We have blanket
sign- they-
liability.
Yes, they have a waiver.
Could you imagine having something like this in the winter time? Somebody wants this room? We have to make sure that that whole parking lot's, is.
I guess I'm getting at,
Me moved. You can think of all sorts
if
of.
we,
We
if
could have
we
a
make a
waiver.
space available for the
Homeowner
public,
Association president signs.
if we make a space available for the public. We have terms of use,
Then you know what? Then let's not. Let's just say nope. It's just for
but
council.
why not? Why can't we make it available for people?
Because I'm uncomfortable with what you want to do.
Oh, you don't know what I wanna do.
I know what you want to open up to anybody.
So why
Well, we are opening up to anybody. Now we're just being exclusive to certain groups.
But that's the way it's been.
We're
and
discriminating against
it's-
other
It's on
people.
the books. You just can't find it.
Mark, yeah, and Mark doesn't want it open to everyone. He just wants to have this discussion about going in circles here and having the debate. I mean,
Can you, do you, I'm sure you understand.
No,
Mark's general-
I think
can you draft
that's
something
not
that we could look
exactly
at?
what I said.
Okay,
Well, so are we in agreement that we can put a deadbolt on the board? I don't think.
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
1,000,000%.
I'll vote For that.
Yes.
And then let staff come up with something. I mean, if we have something for renting fields, we can easily create something, a policy and. Some type of a form for a
Yeah.
community group.
I'm good for whatever. I just wanna make sure if we don't have a party the one day and then we go in there because nobody checked it, that's a mess for the meeting the next
Yeah.
day and that's, all the cords are discombobulated or. Half the microphones don't work.
Yeah, chairs are upside down and ripped and.
If we have a policy where somebody is going to check that and they paid for Elisa to go look at it.
Yeah,
So I'm
That's
sure
extra.
she's not free,
yeah.
and I-
Oh, I'm very expensive.
for somebody to look at it.
Recap that?
We're gonna put a deadbolt on and then we'll come up with a policy and some type of. A waiver or agreement that whoever uses the room has to sign. Similar to, a shelter rental or something like that. So that, and then I can run it by our insurance company to make sure that it's covered. Bring it back.
So. With that, make everyone come, so we would give you you have the direction to do that, and we will take action on it at the next meeting. Is that what you're suggesting then?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So we'll just let that one go then, and we'll have the opportunity to revisit this again.
Oh, goody.
So hearing no motions on item 10E, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Thank,
Motion.
I mean, no, sorry.
What? Motion carries, we're 5-0, we're adjourned.
8:15.